Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tour Talk. This time, myself and Nate are joined by Rob Daiker, who plays keys in the Dan Reed Network. Rob actually started out as an artist fronting his own band before going on to work as a producer full-time, so we get his take on differences between being in charge and fronting your own band, as opposed to being a part of somebody else's project whilst on the road, and we ask him what it's like trying to balance a home-work life of being a producer whilst also being a touring musician. We have some fun comparing shows in the States to those over in the UK and Europe and how they differ for the guys as performers. And we get into some cringy stories about the times we've had guests at shows who just haven't behaved themselves. Finally, there's some great advice in here from Rob about the do's and don'ts when signing with a major label, taken directly from his experience. There's loads of good content throughout this episode in general, so I hope you all really enjoy it and maybe just learn something from it too. Maybe. Welcome to Tour Talk.
All right. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I am a little nervous about this episode.
Why is that? You're afraid I'm going to swear?
But, no, to be honest, out of all the people that I've ever worked with and been on tour with who I would actually consider friends, you two ride me the hardest. Unequivocally. This could only be worse if Rob was on this call too and he was giving me shit simultaneously. It's bad enough he's going to have to edit this thing. Never mind just dealing with you two on the actual call. So can we ease into this before you gang up on me and make my life miserable?
You want to ease into it? All right, I mean, okay.
So is it not weird that it's been a year since we were all in that studio together, kind of hanging out, working on that record, and literally nothing has happened since?
It's been exactly a year, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it feels like the longest and shortest year of my life. It's gone really quick. I mean, having, working on the network record in January and then having that kind of fill up the year in various spaces, and then working on another record from a band from Salt Lake City. It was super busy, and then doing everything else, and then trying, we had fires, we had riots, we had a little bit of flooding here at the studio. What else? What else is going on here? I live in Portland, Oregon. Ta-da!
It's been a busy year considering we haven't actually been able to work properly. But it's kind of one thing I wanted to touch on that obviously you have a line of work at home that takes up the majority of your time, and then you try and balance that out with actually going on tour and playing with bands, whether that be touring Europe with the network or doing shows locally in Portland and stuff. How do you prioritize stuff? Is there a reason why you want to go away on tour? Is there a reason why you want to work at home? Where's the balance for you with that?
Well, as far as touring goes, I love it with the network because when it was happening, I mean, we were really kind of only doing, our longest stretch ever was 5 weeks. I don't remember, but it's usually just chunks of, 2 weeks here, 3 weeks here, 3 weeks here, maybe 3 times a year, right? Mm-hmm. And it really helps. I'm in the studio doing, what I do. I'm just producing records and I'm doing all that stuff. So it's nice to get out of the house. And it's not, and it's great to tour with the network because we're all buddies, and you know how it is being on tour with people who aren't your buddies.
I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah, we could have a whole nother sideshow about that, right? Yeah. But yeah, so it's honestly, if there was never an opportunity to tour, I don't know if I'd go seek one out. The thing with the network just kind of happened because Blake left and they needed, you know how it went. So it's been a nice, and it's great. We get over to Europe, and especially in the summertime. It's touring's not like vacation, but there are moments. There is a day here and there where you're like, okay, this is better than sitting in Portland,
Yeah, for sure. I think it'd be good to kind of get both of your takes on touring and playing shows in the States compared to coming over to Europe and playing shows over here, because I know Rob especially has some real bugbears about being in the UK that you love to remind me about on the regular. So, do you want to start with that and tell me?
Yes. First of all, we'll start with bugbears. What the fuck is bugbears? Is that another English thing? I'm pretty convinced you guys have a list of words that mean nothing to anybody else, but you guys keep using them to fuck with us, right? Is that what's going on?
No, you know what a bugbear is, right?
No, you know what? A bugbear. I know
Never.
what a bed. I know what a bed bug is.
Yeah, I've never heard of that, and I have to say that at one point, I believe a couple years ago when we were out with Dario on tour in the UK, I kept saying pish posh as if I also made up a British saying and just kept saying it for everything,
Right.
and people eventually just thought it was a thing that British people say. So I do think they're just making
Beautiful.
stuff up.
You know what else I think? I think behind closed doors, when there's no Americans around and no one can hear them, they're speaking just like us. There's no
100%.
that accent.
Agreed.
It's totally ginned up. It's ginned up. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. What was the original question, Dario?
I feel like this is a wonderful example of the shit that I have to go through, like, on a daily basis when I have to tour with you guys. So thank you for proving my point, like, straight out
Why is this
straight out
hard
the
for
gate.
you?
We're 5 minutes in and I already miss you, dude. I want to go on tour and just... Whenever we do a tour and I go, is Dario going to be there? No, I'm like, I'll come anyway.
Why is that? I feel like that's more for you to berate. You get pleasure out of berating me and making my day a little bit harder than actually enjoy being around me.
Don't you mean taking a piss?
The piss.
You're
You
taking
take
a
the
piss.
piss. You go for a piss. You take the piss. You should know better by now, Rob.
It's an important thing. But it doesn't
is.
matter. It doesn't matter anymore.
My original question.
I thought it was drinking the piss.
Oh.
No, that's a Nate Bergman
No,
line I special.
Oh, sorry, okay.
And if you go get drunk, right? It's you go. I got pissed, right?
Yeah,
Is that right?
that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
guys are
That's
doing
where
well.
that's where you confuse Americans when they say, I got so pissed last night. What's the matter? Do you want to talk about it?
How many times have you guys been over to the UK by now? You should know.
Man, a
You
bunch
should
of
know.
times.
So my original question was differences between touring in the States to touring in Europe. And apart from the Wi-Fi, things that you like.
Well, I mean, right off the bat, I'm much more with what I'm doing anyway. I much more prefer this Europe and what's going on over there for live music in general. I think they just have. There's a deeper appreciation for going to see a band over there that I haven't seen here in the States. But at the same time, I haven't toured a lot in the States. Probably not really at all. And all my excursions with touring has been foreign,
Mm-hmm.
But even so, I feel like, I don't know, it's so cool over there how you can just go a couple hours in one direction and they're speaking a different language and it's different culture, different food, and then,
Nate?
you know how it is.
Yeah, I think that's totally correct. I mean, I will say that I think when a show in the States is great, in a place like New Orleans or Detroit, or even New York City, when the show is great, it is the highest level of appreciation, but it's few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I think in Europe, the average show is at that high level across the board, except then you get to a place, like in Germany, you get to Berlin or you go to Athens, Greece, and their highest level blows America out of the water. There's no touching it. So the UK in general, especially in a place like Manchester or London, on a sold-out show in London, the level of excitement there's nothing like it.
As performers, what's the difference?
The
Well,
amount
what gets you
of
there?
the amount of beer consumed by the audience, or are you saying from our perspective?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've seen a lot of people trashed at shows in the States. That can't just be a British thing. But
It's
from your perspective.
It's enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Rob. I think he nailed it perfectly when saying there's a level of appreciation, and I think as a performer you could feel that.
Yeah.
I think that's tangible.
Yeah, I think there's something too also about, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like back in the day when the Portland music scene was happening, you go, oh, there's a band in town from Sweden, we gotta go check them out. Or there's a band in town from England. Right off the bat, there's a level of qualification that, oh, they came from far away to be here. So I feel like there's a little bit of that with American bands over there. Maybe? Am I right? Dario's like, no.
No, man, but if you look at like the bill for download or whatever, it's almost like exclusively American bands.
Right.
It's like
right.
over here, you can't, as a British band, you can't get a look in. Like really, it's completely reversed. So it is strange in that way. That you guys seem to love coming over here and enjoy the culture of the way that Europeans do shows, but we can't give our own bands a look in really.
Yeah, it's grass is greener, right?
Always.
Yeah, well, I don't know about it anymore. Dun dun dun. Oh boy.
So I had another like kind of question for you as well, because obviously, way back when you had your own band that you fronted.
Yeah.
So, in terms of playing shows and actually touring, like fronting your own band and being like, I don't want to say in control of everything, but being in charge, like compared to what it's like playing a role in somebody else's band, essentially, or a group that you've joined.
Well, I will say right off the bat, it's way more organized now than I ever could have dreamed it would have been. You know, when I was doing that, I was, in my mid-20s, and I didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
Now, if you haven't, you've got to check out a couple of videos of Rob's band, because you look like this glorious, like, love child of, like, Scott Weiland and, like, Courtney Love or something, like, playing this great rock and roll. Like, it's mega.
You sent me some stuff before.
What
before I visited the studio.
What band are you talking about?
Of yours? I think I saw like a clip of a Velabon show.
Oh, okay, that.
Yeah.
So Velabons was a band I had after. I had a band signed to Sony Records called Slowrush. That's kind of where their touring and all that stuff was happening. Velabons is more of a local thing, but did a couple of cool things. But yeah, it's kind of two different bands, but same idea, I guess.
Uh-huh. But that whole like aspect of fronting a band and like running it essentially.
I didn't like it. I didn't like being a leader. I shouldn't say I didn't like it. I wasn't very good at it. And it was, to me, and this is probably why I landed into what I'm doing now, but to me, I the best part of all the music stuff was making it, making the song, and then I felt like tour was a labor of like, okay, now we gotta go out and play these it was. I liked playing live, but you gotta understand, like, coming right out of high school, I was playing in cover bands like 6 nights a week, 4 hours a night for 3 or 4 years straight, dude. So it was like, I got my fill. Not to say that was the same as touring with your own original band, but it's like, there's a labor in going, dude, you do those long stretches with bands, and that's tough stuff, man. Yeah. Everybody sees that 1 hour a night where you're on stage and they have an idea what your life is like for the other 23 hours of the day. And it's just, it sucks, man. It kind of sucks. I mean, there's certain people that aren't cut for it.
Yeah, totally.
And there's certain people that's all they can do is live that life, which is awesome. I feel sorry for those people right now.
That's really fun. That's really funny because I think I've definitively understood. Yeah. I think Rob's right. There's two. You're either like a studio guy or you're a touring guy, right? And it's never really equal, right? There's guys that love to stay in the studio, and that's like one aspect of the mentality of it. And there's guys that love to go perform, and you're always one percentage more of the other. I've noticed that there's just distinctly two different types of folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like the folks that are very into touring. It's this cultural subset. It's almost like these traveling circuses going everywhere, and people kind of know each other, and it's its own community. And man, I just feel for the people who are used to that grind and they're just forced to stop right now. Also, that's like, it breaks my heart. But I like getting out a couple times a year. But if someone says, hey, we have a 10-week tour, world tour, do you want to do this? I was like, probably not. That's like, probably not. That's a lot of work, man. And that's like and that if I spend too much time away from the other things I do, and then those things will kind of dry up, maybe, So I don't know.
Have you missed it? Like this last year?
I miss fucking with you, dude, for sure.
I mean, you've been doing that. You've been doing that socially distanced anyway, quite well. So that's fine.
Dude, it's like they say it's the little things in life, and that's one of them. It's like, you know.
Rob, I've thought a lot about you during this time.
Okay.
Because I was really blown away by your setup. You have a setup that most musicians, whether studio or touring, if you want to make music, your setup is unparalleled. I mean, you have a beautiful little house, and then you walk 15 feet from your kitchen, and you are in a really awesome recording studio. And it's funny because you've done that for a long time. And I think now the mentality of the rest of the music world is kind of catching up to that in a sense, where people are like, oh, I wish during the pandemic that I could walk 15 feet from my front door and have a way to make music.
Yeah. Yeah, I get, when the pandemic and all this stuff hit, like I said earlier, I was kind of just, my train kept going there. And I'm like, very thankful for that. But yeah, I've kind of fashioned a life where, I don't have to leave very much. I mean, there are times when I got to, go to another city, produce a band, but usually it's like a small percentage of what I do. Most of what I do is back here in my own spot, So I've been lucky very much.
Did you develop that just to like reduce potential interaction with other human beings
yes,
across the board?
Absolutely, dude. And you know what? It's working out great. I haven't seen anybody for like a year. But yeah, I do my best work alone. I it's not the perfect way for every artist, but it is what I've kind of gotten used to. And I know that good example would be like maybe I'll be mixing some band's song or record or whatever. Okay, can we come be there when you mix? I was like, no, dude, you can't. Because, it just, no matter what, even if someone's silent behind me while I'm mixing, I'm not going to go as fast, and I'm not going to have my normal routine of decision making, if the drummer's sitting behind me.
Yeah.
I'll all of a sudden, why is the kick and snare so loud? But not really. But I've known throughout the years that it's like, we can spend, 25 hours on your mix, or we can do an 8 to 10 hour mix by myself, So
yeah.
But I've had to work hard to get to that spot,
Hey, Nate, so like obviously Rob's thing of the difference between being a touring musician and somebody who likes to create something in the studio, like obviously you do both. Like where are you on that side of the fence? Like
I guess for me I hate I shouldn't say hate. I find the studio very frustrating, right? I find it very laborious. I mean, to me it's like I have an idea and I want it, once it's down, I then immediately have the compulsion to like show people the idea. You know what I mean? So the studio for me is very frustrating, and I find that touring feeds the creative aspect of writing for me. Traveling and getting those experiences is like literally the only thing that keeps your brain from rotting in a way. Like, and that's just the way I'm wired, essentially. It's like some people have that patience, and I wish I did.
Because I don't think what a lot of people understand about the studio and actually recording a song is that like it's like a piece of fine art, isn't it? That there are layer upon layer, and it's not like just like we go in, we all play our part, and then we're done. Like especially for someone like Rob, like the way you approach mixes and everything else. I mean, like,
yeah,
it's deep. Like how far you go to actually get to that final product. Whereas playing a show, it's just hopefully it's just 5 or 6 guys on stage playing their instruments and making something happen.
Yeah, it's a totally different world, I think. I think that's why some hardcore road guys hate the studio and vice versa, I mean, the way I approach building songs, it's like I look at it like building a house, man. You got to dig that foundation, put the concrete down, it should start from the ground up. And it's I think a lot of people's misconceptions about maybe non-musicians who think about how records get made. It's like, oh, they just all go into a room. I've seen the videos. They all go into a room and they got their headphones and they all play it at the same time. And it's like, the original drummers in the shot. And we know that doesn't happen that way. Some instances, jazz or whatever, but most music now is different.
So, like, Nate, for you, is your knowledge of the studio and what you do, like, just a way to facilitate songwriting, and then you just want to hand over the reins to someone else when it comes to, like, building it up, essentially? Like, someone like Rob, for example. Like, here's all the parts that I've kind of got, here's my ideas. Help me make an actual song out of this to a point.
Yeah, I think I look at it kind of in two ways, and it's not very divisive. A lot of times, I have a very complete idea of how I want the song to sound. From my demo, I have multiple layers, and I have the song's ready in my head. It's ready to hand to you, even as a producer, and I say, let's make this come to life, or I'm not married to a vision at all, and then I hand the whole thing over and just say, here's the melody, like here's the skeleton of it. How do we build the house, out of that? And I think that's, I would love to be able to find the joy in the building of the house, so to speak. I'm just like, I just want to be in the house. I fucking can't. I don't have the patience to be like, all right, here's the blueprints, here's the cement. I'm ready. Just get me in there. I'm done. I'm ready. So yeah, I think it's just the two mentalities of it. I don't know, Rob. I mean, what is it like for you when someone brings you an idea?
Well, most of the time it's usually I don't work with a lot of band entities, a couple here and there, but most of the time it's an artist that says, I have an idea. Let's sit down and figure out what the chords and words are, and we'll get a click track, and then I'm going to leave, and then you can do your thing. That is 75% of kind of what I do. It doesn't happen, obviously, when there's band units and there's, people bringing ideas to the table. But in a way, it kind of does too there. Sometimes the band will come in and just, here's my part, see you in a little while, But that's me. That's the way I do it. I don't think there's any rules for producers to do one thing or the other, but that's just kind of how I've created my path. And, I know it doesn't work for everybody, what I'm talking about, because I know what it's like to be an artist and you have ideals and you have your ideas and those are your babies, and like, it's a tough thing to let go of. But what I've learned is that the quicker you are to let go of your babies and your ideas, the quicker another one's going to come right around the corner. So if you're as willing to receive those ideas as you are to let go of them, then you just get more and more. And then then a flow starts, So it's a hard lesson to learn.
Do you find the ideas get better as they keep coming? If you can let go of the few and just allow stuff to come and go, the ideas get better progressively? I
feel yes that they do. It's being willing to just let go of everything, and just find the one that feels good. That's what I just go based on feel, But yeah, I try not to be attached to anything. That's been the biggest lesson I've learned. Yeah.
It took me a long time to get to that place, Rob, where like, it took me literally 15 years where I think it's important, like you have a vision, but you don't get married to any specific detail. And then that allows you to expand. I think that's great advice for anybody that's trying to produce or write, is just don't die on that hill.
Cool. So, Rob, do you apply all those principles to your own stuff when you're actually writing and producing your own stuff for yourself?
When I've done my solo record a few years back, I feel like I do it better, but I'm not perfect. And still in those, like, I've just never been in a position to have somebody go, hey, you're going to produce this piece of work that I'm going to do, and we're going to go into this partnership. And like, it just hasn't worked. Anytime I've done music for myself, it's just been, I'm going to cram it in when I'm not working. So I'm just piecemealing stuff together. So plus I've just never had the desire to go, I'm going to make a go as an artist. And, you know, we've talked about this, and I've talked about maybe coming over to UK and doing some shows, but gosh, man, again, it's just like, it's a lot of work for, you know, and you got to do it over and over again to build up to the point where you're like, okay, that was financially worth it now, but you got to do it, you know, do a few runs to start making that worth money. So
do you want to explain what it's like trying to get a label to invest in you to like kind of go and take your product somewhere else and like actually facilitate you opening up to a new market or whatever, and like going playing shows in the UK? Like,
it just takes fucking a lot of money, man. It's a lot of money. And you have to have a label that is going to take a big chance on you. They got to put money in, man. Like, you know how much it costs to go on the road per day. If you're an American artist, especially an American band, you know, it's 5, 6 guys, whatever, you know what that adds up to. And you have to have a label that's willing to go, okay, we're going to foot the bill for this because we believe in this band, which, God, is that ever even happening anymore? Or is it just every man for himself out there? You know, so I mean, I know how it was, you know, 10, 15 years ago with all this. I know it's not like that anymore. But that doesn't mean to say there aren't labels that aren't putting money into bands or artists.
I mean, I was gonna like ask you how you found that stuff had changed from like when you got signed, and I mean, did you get tour support and stuff from your label when you first signed? And
things are radically different. Yeah, we got tour support. I feel like we got in on the end of the good stuff with used to hear about bands going, oh, we signed a $1 million record deal, and we got this. They were just throwing mad amounts of cash around back then.
Maybe we should explain. Tour support is when a label actually
tour support is like when you get signed by a label and you put your record out and they say, okay, now you're going to go on tour, and they say it's going to cost X amount for you to be on tour every month, and that's your tour support. They cover those expenses. That goes against your sales of your record. You know, in order to break a band, they got to put back then at least they had to be putting over $1 million in. You know, so if you broke and your single did well, you know that you're great. You know, we're $1 million in the hole. You know, that's what most bands consider making it, being $1 million in debt. You know, so that's how it was back then, and you know, the budgets for records were way bigger.
I mean, because on previous things, me and Nate have discussed like experiences with different, whether it be labels or management or booking agents or whatever. Like when you got signed, what was your experience of actually working with a label? Were they there to help you? Did they hinder you? Like,
my A&R people were there to help me. I mean, I know 25 is not that young, but I feel like I was a little naive in the music business as far as what was going on.
Sure.
You know, I basically got signed off the strength of one song, and a gentleman who used to work at Virgin Records and radio promotions heard the song and said, "Hey, I can get you a record deal if you let me manage you." And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So great guy, but you know, it was kind of his first, you know, venture into management. And hindsight, you know, knowing that I was going to be getting a record deal, I should have gone, you need to go with some heavy hitters. You know, you need to go with people with a good track record, and when they walk into a label that people are scared of them, you know.
Why do you need
because
that?
that's who's fighting for you, you know.
Okay.
So really the only people on your side is like your manager, your A&R people, because A&R people are the people at the label who go out and find the artists they want to sign. So it's in their best interest that you do well, right? President, not so much. In some instances, maybe, if the president is actually the one that signs you. But president's got a roster of however many bands they have, right? And they know only a couple are going to pop. So, you know, they're not as... I mean, everybody wants to see you succeed, but they don't give a shit if you fail.
Yeah.
do you want to do you mind giving like some details of the deal you signed? Like just a Nate.
I signed a 2-record with 1 option deal with Sony Records with Epic. James Dowdle and Rose Noon signed me. They also signed James Dowdle used to work for I'm blanking on the name of the record label now. It signed Trent Reznor. TN
Atlantic.
something. No, it was early. T something not T. Oh, fucking that up.
TNT?
Was it TNT?
Sure. I mean, that's a famous heavy label. TVT.
TVT. Sorry.
TVT.
Yeah, TVT. James Dowdle, who signed Trent Reznor over at TVT. He was also my A&R guy, too. Great people. They also had the Mayfield 4, which is another interesting coincidence because Miles and I had the same A&R people at the same label, and we were good friends. But there was no connection between Miles and me getting signed, so Miles had a deal a year and a half before me. So anyway, so your A&R and your management are really the ones that are supposed to be fighting for you, and it's you're amongst sharks. You really are, and it's a fucking tough business. And when you're on a label with Rage Against the Machine, Pearl Jam, Incubus, who else was on there? Like all these other bands. Their singles are coming out that week, and so is yours, but no one gives a shit. So, but we did okay for a minute. The song was on a bunch of stations. There's a song called Junkie. But then, before we went on this tour, I lost the drummer and the keyboard player because they couldn't go on tour for the amount of money that we were being offered. So. I had to get some replacements. The label saw that as, oh shit, this band's breaking up. My A&R people didn't know that was the case because they knew that I was kind of running the show. I mean, I wasn't playing everything, but I was kind of dictating who was doing what in that band, for sure. So the label got cold feet and then started asking for material for a second record. I was like, I just gave you my first record, which, So at that point, I started talking to my lawyer to see if I could get out of the deal. And miraculously, I got out of the deal and they paid me for that second record. And that just kind of, from that point on, I just went pretty deep into production. Because I learned a lot more about, what's that?
Your deal was different because did they give you creative control as well, which is like really unusual?
100% creative control and production credit. So it's like I credit when I'm 26 or whatever on major label record that came out. Hindsight should have waited for another year, done some better writing. I think there was probably 2 good songs on that record when I listened back to it. But I mean. I could sit here all day and tell you what I should have done, but what happened was that helped me go into more production part of my career.
Hey Nate, does any of that story relate? Can you, if you've experienced similar things?
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of. I mean, at one point, my old band was signed to a subsidiary of BMG, and it was a literal nightmare. We didn't have creative control. Everything was nitpicked. They didn't really give a shit. And then we learned that a very new thing that major labels are doing. I still think independent labels can be great, obviously, because they're coming from a much more focused and smaller standpoint. But a thing that this label was doing, this subsidiary in particular, was buying up bands on the cheap, small bands, and just hoping they would sign up 10 bands and hope that one of them hit. And if one of them hit, it paid for the other 10, and they still own the masters of the other 10 in case 5 years later one of those takes off. And it's they're playing it like the stock market essentially, right? So that left a really sour taste in my mouth with majors, and then really the only rule that I took from all of it, from just 15 years of doing that was that, especially with management, and from your framework of saying that you go into, you have to have a tough manager and you have to have a a tough A&R, etc. I won't work with somebody in the management end of things that has never toured in a DIY band. Won't do it. Don't want to work with somebody who is a suit that's parents had money and they felt like the best option for their kid was to let them be like a suit in the entertainment industry, because those are the people that they don't give a shit. They really don't give a shit. So from my standpoint, I don't want to work with people that have never sat in a van for 16 hours on an overnight drive from, Portland to Chicago.
I'm just going to say I never want to spend 16 hours in a van overnight with either of you two folks ever again. I don't know how the connection. I think it might have dropped.
Dario's internet is just fucking god awful. Jesus Christ.
I know. I've tried everything. I bought a fucking booster.
Is your tea kettle on?
Hardwired in. The hardwire
Turn your
was
tea kettle off.
What's your normal speed over there?
I've had my tea. My tea is done. My tea is done.
Can you?
If you turn the tea kettle off, the internet goes up a bar.
It just makes me sad. It makes me really sad because I've literally done everything to try and make this work better, and it sucks.
What do you guys want to talk about now?
I was going to actually ask you, because basically, like, the last time we did a tour, you didn't drink on that tour. Like, and I'm not saying that, like, you always used to drink or, like, you have to drink if you're on tour, but, like, for you, I mean, I don't know, like, if you used to do shows with drinking or not and touring, and then, but how was it not drinking and your progression from one to the other? And
it was good. I did, like, about a year and maybe just about a year and a half where I didn't drink. Just decided to take a break just for see how it would feel with my health, and it was really great. And then I knew I had tour coming up, and I was like, oh, and I'm like, seeing how long I could go without drinking, I was like, oh, tour is gonna be tough, not drinking, right? Like that's because it's like there's always beer, there's always stuff there, right? There's like fucking vodka, and there's always stuff around. I was like, I didn't know how I would do. Not that I was gonna freak out or anything, but I was just like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna see if I can go this tour and not drink. Don't get me started about the goddamn candy. Why is there so much candy around on tour? Like, might as well have been drinking. But anyway, so it was, I think I had a beer at the very end of that tour just to be like, I didn't drink. But it was interesting at times, not being the sober one on the bus, after shows and stuff. But it was fun. It wasn't a bad thing at all.
I mean, not that I'm getting at that, like, everybody who goes on tour drinks a lot and everyone's an alcoholic, but like
it makes the mornings a little better, I think.
Well, I shouldn't preface it by saying that, but I mean, like, there's more beer and alcohol around on tour than there is in my normal day-to-day life, like, it's just how it is, it's just, there's stuff, there's backstage. It's not like, we're drinking champagne every night, but yikes. Anyway.
Did it change your experience of being on tour? Was it completely different, or?
No, it didn't feel completely different to me. I was also a little, two and two, so,
Yeah, that's just par for the course for you guys from Portland, though. That's all you guys fucking do.
You guys from Portland. First of all, there's women here too, mister. How dare you assume you're a misogynist? Did I say that word right?
I think you said it right. I don't know whether it's in the right context, but you said it right for sure. Hey, Nate, have you ever been the sober one on tour?
I've never done a full tour
100% sober, but I tend to I don't drink that much on tour unless it's a day off because of my voice. I can't I can't have too much to drink kind of before the show. It fucks my voice up. It just gets real dry. And then generally Yeah, I mean, I like to drink on days off, and there'll be the occasional thing, but for me, it's always been more of a stamina thing. It's super hard to get fucked up 5 nights in a row. By that sixth morning when the alarm goes off, it's that misery never equates. It never feels as good to be hammered as not having that misery.
Amen.
You wake up in it. Yeah,
So true.
That's brutal.
And it does not get any better as you get older. I promise.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I think it's very enjoyable to travel and drink. The older I get, the more I'm picky about the days that I will do it and the days that I won't do it.
The day that's the toughest to do it, and what usually ends up happening is the last day of the tour. They're like, last day of the tour, and everybody's throwing it back, and then you got to be at Heathrow at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh,
and you're
that's
like,
the nightmare. That's the nightmare of all nightmares.
I'm just not gonna sleep, and then you get on that point. You're like, and you're in for the long haul, and it's just hell on earth. Hell on earth.
Yep.
Yeah.
I book those flights.
I usually fly Aer Lingus, so I generally will stop in Ireland in Dublin for an hour, or 2 hours, whatever the layover is, and I've done that so many times. Just throbbing hangover where like there's no water left in your body, and there's nothing worse.
That's the
than that,
worst.
'cause it's Ireland. And it's their airport, so people are drinking Guinness at 7 a.m, and you're just like, this is unbearable. But
yeah,
I've done it too many times to say it won't happen again. Yeah,
I think people just have a preconception that tour is just a big party continuously, and that everybody's hammered all the time. And people do have a good time. People do drink, but it's not like a prerequisite, or it's not as full on as what everybody might think. Like, especially for someone like you, Nate, who's fronting a band, and you actually have to think about your voice.
Yeah, I put it to people like, imagine the last really cool vacation you had, and then remember the day you had to travel on either side of that vacation? Like, yeah, that sucked. I go, that's what tour is every day. Like, you're traveling every day, and not only are you doing that, but sometimes you're traveling, doing a show, drinking, partying, whatever, at the end of that show. Traveling again, doing the same thing over and over, and like, man, it's fun for about an hour or two a day, maybe.
We relate. We can relate. I'm gonna go for one more topic. I didn't really tell you this, Rob, but generally I just pick one random topic out of this lovely looking cup here, and we just see what happens.
Yes.
So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, you got something in the cup.
Oh yeah, I got like loads of different topics in here. It's really high tech. One day we may do this better, but that one's shit. Days off. We've kind of already covered it.
Yeah.
Sadly, where's the one with like drugs or like? Guess. I know you're gonna like this, Rob.
What's that?
Well, guests at shows. Having guests at shows.
Oh!
here we go.
Don't get me started, man.
What's it like for you, Rob, when you've got friends who want to come to the show?
Well, first of all, I whittled down all my friends, so I don't really have any friends. That really helps with people wanting to come to your show if you don't have any friends. I definitely make my mom pay. My mom, my brothers, my sisters, they all have to pay. If there's any girl that I'm currently doing horrible things to on my radar, she definitely doesn't have to pay. She can bring her mom and her family. They don't have to pay. No. We've all been in situations, right? And your band's like, can I get your names for the guests? And they're like, somebody have one name, two names, and then somebody will go, here's fucking 14 people. Like, what?
They're the person who goes around all the other bands during the day being like, have you guys used up all the space on your guest list? Could I have like some space? Can I like get a couple of people on your list? Ugh.
Well, it's funny because there's no like space. There's like, you get this many people, and that's your shit, right? Space.
Hey, Rob, has anybody, have you ever had any guests not behave appropriately during shows or like backstage or anything like that?
Oh, dude. I feel like any guest I had, that's what they always do.
Any specific, any stories that come to mind?
Yeah, I was playing a long time ago. This is probably 15 years ago, maybe in Portland. pretty big packed show, and a buddy of mine was there, and he was just hammered. And I don't know why it came over him to think that it would be funny to take the entire full pint of beer he had and just woo right at the stage, and it just covered me. And like, I don't know if you've had a beer thrown in your face while you're singing. It stings a little bit. So yeah, they drug him out of there pretty quick. Security and stuff. God, what else? There was I had an ex-boyfriend of a girl I was dating show up at a show, wanted to fight right in the middle of our set.
Did he get on stage?
He got right in front of me.
Wow.
And it was funny because there's security on either side of me, so I was like talking shit to him, like right to his face, and then I was just like, get him the fuck out of here. Like, he wasn't a guest, but he was kind of, he's a friend of a guest. What else? I'm sure there's a bunch, but those are a few
What
that
about
come
like
to
anybody?
mind.
Because obviously that's just like directly to you. But what if you've been like had a guest backstage and they've not really understood how that works? Anybody behaved inappropriately with like other artists or anything?
Oh, dude, I mean, I'm just filtering, like, can't talk about that. Can't talk about that one either. Nope, not that either. Damn, dude. I mean, I think we all know the guy or girl that comes backstage and will drink most of the alcohol and then get too drunk, and then it'd be like she needs to be taken care of, like she's throwing up in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Like, who is this? I thought she was your friend. No, like that happened. I feel like that is a commonplace thing backstage. Yeah. Sometimes.
I'm going to ask this because I think I already know the answer, but like, have you ever invited a girl to a show and then she turned out to be a little crazy, or you didn't?
Geez, Dario, no. I can't think of any of that. What are you really asking me here?
Can't we just say yes and immediately move on?
Yes. I mean, I feel like that's the only kind of girl I've ever had at any show.
Nate?
I remember I do two distinct things. I remember playing a show in New York City with Clutch, sold out 2 nights in a row at Irving Plaza, and in between, I invited a friend that I grew up with. I mean, I've known this guy my entire life, and he came with another guy that I also knew, and they showed up blackout drunk, and in between songs, during the silence, basically, they were screaming my name.
Oh, no.
Like, it was so bad. They were just going, Nate! Nate! I mean, but like that, on that pace, like, Nate! Nate! And everyone was looking at them and then looking at me. It was terrible. And then the only other thing I can remember that's the opposite, worse of that, in Chicago once at the Double Door, we sold 4 tickets to a show. 4. The promoter was so upset. I mean, everyone was so upset. It was very, very bad. It was a Tuesday night, snowing in Chicago. And I get this random Facebook message from a guy that I knew growing up. I mean, again, I haven't talked to him in years. And he's like, can I get a ticket to the show? And I said, sure. So we've sold 4 tickets. The venue's lost thousands of dollars. And he comes, proceeds to get just, wasted drunk. Destroys the dressing room while we're on stage. Destroys the dressing room and gets caught by security pissing in the trash can in the dressing room. Fights the security guard and is removed from the premises. And then the promoter proceeds to explain all this to me, and I was just like, "This is not good.
Wow.
This is not a good guest. This is not a good guest."
That's awesome.
So
So those are mine
awesome.
too.
My only comparative thing to that is that, like, when I still played in a band way back, we did like a battle of the bands for the local like rock radio thing, and it was like a national station, but was based in Manchester. And I just started dating this girl, and she came down with a friend, and we were having a good time. And it was a good night, and we got up and played, and she came down and stood at the front of the stage, right in front of me, and any time it went silent, just was like, "Woo!" right in front of my
God.
face.
Oh my
Got
God.
so drunk. And we actually went on and won that thing, and then like did it. We had to go on and do like an encore, and she was like going like, you know, when it's like it's too much. Like
It's cringy,
encouragement is
baby.
wonderful. Yeah. And I had to drive her home after the show, and like she was like passed out, like, and I never saw her again after that. Pretty much.
Yeah, of course.
That was it, done. But that's my one comparative thing to you guys. I think it's been great to chat to you, Rob. I've really enjoyed seeing you both.
Oh, good. Well, we'll try again next time. I gotta try to make you upset somehow.
Maybe we'll get Rob with the other Rob on next time, and it will literally be the worst setup for a conversation that I could possibly dream.
I thought it went great.
We gotta keep raising the bar.
Yeah.
dude.
No, I think it's been great, man. Thank you very much for coming on. This
Absolutely.
has been another episode of Tour Talk. Thank you very much, Rob, and thank you very much, Nate, for joining me as always.
Cheers, guys.
Good to have you. Or good to be here. Good to have been here.
Yeah, and hopefully I
We
get to see
did it.
you guys soon. at
Good
a
night
show.
and good luck.
Thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of Tour Talk. As always, you can find us across the socials at Tour Talk Pod. That's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Patreon too. Peace!